Rob and Ivy.
Danny stared at the schedule he'd been given. It was extremely organized and had a school map on the back with different colored dashed lines that would lead him directly to where he had to go. Danny couldn't help but feel out of place in the shiny school surrounding him as he gave a tug to his uniform. Like Sam, he disliked wearing a uniform. His reason was totally different though. He could respect trying to fit in, but he disliked being ordered around. Danny walked into the lunchroom still tugging on the edge of his uniform. The lunchroom was around the same size as the one at home, but the people were different. Danny sat down at a table all alone. Although there was no lunch lady ghost attacking, this school was not better than his. Danny pictured Sam and Tucker walking in with a giant fight over meat or no meat, or his parents storming and claiming a ghost was here. They would be half right of course, but that didn't stop people from laughing at them.
So, how is your first day going?
So, how is your first day going?
Well, Rob, it is pretty much like every school you can go to with the usual cliques and the boring classes. The actual school is bigger than mine though, but the school looks way too much like a church,
I replied. Robin's eyes widened at the name I gave him. The redhead asked me. One of the blondes that had been walking by stopped.
Isn't it obvious? He loves robbing me of my time. He plays the big brother role too well if you ask me.
Danny answered her. She rolled her eyes and walked to the lunch line. Danny laughed at the face Robin made. Then Robin went to follow the red-haired girl. Isn't it obvious? He loves robbing me of my time. He plays the big brother role too well if you ask me, Danny answered her. She rolled her eyes and walked to the lunch line. Danny laughed at the face Robin made. Then Robin went to follow the red-haired girl. Barbara, wait up. Robin shouted. The television woman said. Joker walked around planning for his best trap yet that would give him the young boy and get rid of that blasted Batman. He knew of nothing that would entice this new kid to coming. Parents. Unknown. Friends. Unknown. Joker didn't even know where the kid was. The Joker sighed. He'll just have to wait. Wait, for the kid to join the Batman. Danny walked to where Robin said they would get picked up. It'll. Robin shouted as he ran over. Then Alfred pulled up and Danny slid in. Robin followed shortly after. Why didn't you call me Dick when we were at school? Robin asked as Alfred drove to Wayne's mansion. Danny's nose crunched up in dislike. My mom would never allow me to say that word, never mind call someone else by it, Danny stated. Robin let out a sigh. Alfred laughed in the front seat as he drove. Harley left Joker's and went to the only other person she would ever go to for help with boys, Ivy. Poison Ivy was sitting on and surrounded by plants. Hey, Ivy. Harley greeted. Ivy waved her hand in greeting and went back to gardening. What do you do when you might possibly like someone, and they are possibly good? Harley asked. Ivy stopped what she was doing and looked at Harley with wide eyes. Ivy had told Harley multiple times that the Joker didn't treat Harley like the flower she was and that she should leave him. Harley would always protest. Well, if he treats you good and doesn't kill plants, why not? Obviously he isn't such a good guy that he would send you to jail, if he'd rather be with you, Ivy answered. Yeah, but what about Mr. J? Harley asked. Drop him, Poison stated in a deadly voice.
Baby flower and ice.
Danny paced in his room completely bored out of his mind. Really he had absolutely nothing to do. He had finished his homework hours ago. Now he was stuck inside, the reason being a plant invasion. Funny, he had thought he'd already been through that. The food is ready, Alfred called. Danny sighed. As much as he wanted to escape, he was kept in Alfred's sights at all times. That is until a call from Batman was made. Danny smiled as finally he had gotten his chance to escape. Danny raced out of the mansion towards the closest alley, when a searing headache pulsed through him. Then he heard it, echoing off his mental wall. A girl was calling for help. Finally Danny reached his intended destination. Going ghost, he whispered. Danny smiled as he added a new item to his costume. A thin mask now laid on his face, which mimicked Robin's except Danny's was pure white. Although the cloak he was wearing covered his face well, the mask felt like it belonged, as Danny noticed so many here wore similar masks. Danny bursts into the air, homing in on the girl in need, his obsession only making it easier. He flew straight to the Bayou Bartholomew. There she was, seconds away from being destroyed. "Huh, my baby," stated in a shock. Robin's bombs were covering the vine plant. They blinked, resembling a Christmas tree. Oh, how Danny disliked Christmas. Danny closed his eyes as once more she screamed for help. He knew he couldn't just do nothing, even if he wanted to. The blinking bombs froze. Then they fell and everyone watched. The team of heroes devastated, the villains relieved, but that didn't matter. She was ready for what he had to do. He glimmered into sight on the very top of the plant, the newest sight for everyone. The heroes suspected a villain, for he must have stopped their victory, and the villains suspected a hero to throw their battle. Danny smirked. They were both right in a sense. He closed his eyes as he let the chill fill him. He let it build with nowhere to go. Then he released it. It pulled onto the plant, covering it from the top of where he stood to the lowest root. Danny floated into the air, pulling the ice tighter together, filling it with the white that could cleanse it if she allowed. Smaller and smaller she became until she was just a flower. Danny landed on the roof a short distance away from Robin and an alien girl. He opened his neon green eyes to view everyone staring at him. Danny frowns. Obsession now a constant whisper, raging at him to do everything and yet nothing all at once. Line break. The tool I usually use is gone now. What do I do? Her baby, it was all right and in the hands of someone. She was at a standstill. She could continue with the Injustice League, but the venom no longer coursed through her baby. They weren't the winning team. She knew that as soon as Joker joined their party. The figure was male and glowed, but age, powers, and mental state were all unknown. He stared at everyone with haunting green eyes that sent shivers down her spine, and she faces Batman regularly. He was just standing there, almost waiting for something. Then it came, in the form of Joker. The male just growled as the beam went through him. He just turned away from him though and went to the ground where he planted the flower into the ground. A blind trust maybe. Well, she would take it and leave. The big boys were bound to show up soon anyway. The male stood up and then stared straight at her. Ivy stopped. The plant, her baby, was unwilling to obey her anymore. She was stunned. No one was able to do that, no one was that powerful. She was not staying a second longer, and apparently the male thought the same thing as he disappeared into thin air. She let plants wrap around her and followed suit, disappearing into her lair. Another line break, Undergrowth growled. He could feel every ghost who could possibly control plants, and just now he had felt his archenemy. Phantom was lost somewhere, but still gaining power. Unfortunately, Undergrowth knows that Phantom was the only one who could possibly save them. Underage or not, Phantom needed to lead them. Undergrowth let out a sigh as he returns to his brothers. They would need to help Phantom later. After all, an uncontrolled multi-core was extremely dangerous. The ghost line break, Cujo plopped down on the warm sun-coated grass. He was slightly dizzy as that evil green thing had taunted him once again. He had chased it eagerly, ready to finally end its taunting. Yet, in the corner of his eye he could still see it taunting him as it wagged back and forth. Cujo had found a flower. It had funny boy's scent. He wanted the weird-smelling boy though, so he would have to continue his search. First though, he dressed. He was going to soak in the sun. He let his tongue fall out of his mouth as he pants. Owner-to-be would wait. He wasn't very bossy, and right now Cujo wanted to take in the strange bayou around him and some rest. Last line break for now. Danny calmly walked into the house to find a mad new family in front of him. "Where were you?" Robin shouted, emotion swirling in his eyes. Danny gulped and let out a little nervous laugh. His hand grabbed a jeweled petal that rested in his pocket, hidden from view. Danny switched his stand position as he leaned on the opposite foot. Nervously he responded, "Well."